Hello and welcome to 2019 and welcome to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon podcast. We brought to you every week by our sponsors.
PrecisionHydration.com offer electrolyte drinks in different strengths to match how you sweat. Personalize your hydration strategy today at PrecisionHydration.com and get a free box or tube of pH worth up to $9.99 using the code OxygenAddict.
We are also brought to you by FueledByCake.com.
Helen's charity cake recipe book with dozens of delicious cake recipes perfect for home cooking, your own healthy snacks for your bike rides. Recipes from Chrissy Wellington, Emma Pooley, my Nan, and many more. You can get yours at fueledbykake.com for just £10.
And TeamOxygenAddict.com triathlon coaching.
Helping hundreds of age group triathletes see huge improvements in their 70.3 and Ironman performances. Our time training system will make sure that you get the important training done each week in a way that complements the rest of your life, even if you work long, stressful hours or have a hectic, unpredictable family life. And guys, we are opening the team up from Tuesday, the 8th of January. So pretty much now. So get on to teamoxygenaddict.com and check it out if you're interested.
Happy New Year, Rob.
Happy New Year, Hells. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm good.
Made it.
We made it. I cannot believe it's 2019.
We made it to another year, and that in itself is something to be celebrated.
Honestly, it's crazy. It's crazy. Any excitement? What have we missed over the past couple of weeks?
In the Wilby household or in the world in general?
Well, I think most people might know what goes on in the world in general, but maybe. So go with what's been happening in Chez Toi.
Do you know, not much else. It's been a really nice, chilled out family type Christmas. I've managed to schedule some downtime this year and actually stick to it. You know, usually you go, I've got loads of time to see everyone I've ever met, to go out to 47 places. I've done none of that this year. I've just had some early nights. I've chilled out, seen a little bit of family, seen a little bit of friends, but it's all been very nice, actually. Lots of playing with the lad with his new toys and all of that. So it was good. A bit of exercise every day as well. So it's been great.
Perfect. Did you make it? What time did you make it to on New Year's Eve, Rob?
midnight, actually.
Yeah,
made it. How about you?
9:30.
Oh, superb! I salute you. I did it under sufferance. I was like, oh, I know I've got to do it. I've got to get there. I just really want to go to bed.
Yep. I think I was in bed by about 9 o'clock. We had been busy decorating and I was shattered. Yep.
Well, good for you for getting what you need. You've got to reward yourself at that time of year, haven't you?
Totally. Bed.
I was at a board games party. It was ace. We played loads of different board games. I really enjoyed it, actually.
Oh,
yeah.
One game we did play, Monopoly, but a card version.
Right.
It exists. It's brilliant. It's really good.
I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, do. It doesn't necessarily last. You know how Monopoly can sometimes last, I mean, literally days.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you can get through this one in a lot less than a day.
Good.
I mean, a lot less.
All right, well, listen, let's kick off the show today. First up, Hells, I want to give a thanks to people who've left a review of the show on iTunes. If you remember, we had that competition running and it's still going to go to the end of January. For anyone that reviews the show on iTunes and posts a screenshot of their review in the thread in the Oxygen Addict Triathlon community group, you're going to get entered into a prize draw to win a copy of the new Cervelo storybook. It's called To Make Athletes Faster by Anna DiPiccio. If you're not already a member of that group, get onto Facebook and join it. And then, if you can leave us a review, ideally a 5-star review, that would be lovely. We love those 5-star reviews, don't we, Hells?
Clearly, I like 5-star reviews.
You don't really care about until you realise that iTunes ranks you in the podcast things according to how many reviews you've got. And if you haven't got very many, like we haven't got, you don't kind of appear. It's a bit like being on page 7 of Google at the minute. So the more of them we get, the higher we appear, the more downloads we get, the bigger names we can get on the show. It'd be awesome.
Exactly. So if you can go over there, that'd be amazing.
We had one over Christmas from a lady called Laura who said, and bless her, she said, love these guys, straight talking, knowledgeable and funny. They managed to get great guests, and Hells is a genius at getting snippets out of them. So how about that, Hells? You're a genius. It's official. Thanks, Laura. She says, thanks to them, I joined Team OA, and it's no understatement to say it changed my life. How nice is that?
Yeah, that's ace. That's really cool.
So we've got 116 5-star reviews at this point. And my big shout out to our listeners is, can you help us get us to 200 5-star reviews by the end of January? Please, please, pretty please. Just log into iTunes and leave us a review. That would be awesome.
Well, we did hear from Lindsay Beale got in touch with us over Christmas saying she's listening to the podcast, and that Rob, you said that hope you're listening whilst running or riding. Made us smile because she sent us photos of palm trees. Oh no, palm trees and sunbathing basically. So she was obviously listening to us whilst sunbathing. And then someone else had got in touch as well saying that they had done what we said, which was hit enter.
Yeah, on what?
Yeah.
Did they tell us on what?
I hovered over the enter button, but went for it. Entered L2M Ultra. So that's the Liverpool to Manchester, isn't it? Ultra. But this year apparently
to take a bite of, isn't it?
Yeah, this year apparently it's Manchester to Liverpool. And he says, yeah, it's a bit of a step up. That's Scouse Tim's on Twitter.
It's a good old journey, that, isn't it? Comes past the end of my road, actually. It's only about 100 yards away from where I live now, yeah. I have to get out and cheer them on this year.
Get out, cheer them on.
Yeah. All right, well, let's have a look around the world then. According to, there's not been any races going on over the last week because obviously it's been Christmas week, but we have got a little bit of triathlon news, which is brought to you by our friends over at precisionhydration.com. So just to remind any listeners who are in or around the Northwest, they're going to be doing one of their hydration workshops in Chester at Pro Physio in Chester on January the 26th at 5 p.m. There's going to be discounted sweat testing available between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. in the same place that day. So there's a link in the show notes. If you want to book yourself in, you've just got to click a link and book a slot. It's completely painless. And if, like me, you suffer from being a particularly salty sweater or a particularly heavy sweater, or if you've had lots of problems with cramp or problems with racing in the heat, it's a really good idea to go and see these guys. I recommend going to see them anyway, just because they put a great show on and it's a really interesting talk. So if you're anywhere nearby, get down and watch it. But if you are struggling with sweating issues, then you can't do better than the old Precision Hydration sachets. Check it out over at precisionhydration.com. And remember, you can get $9.99's worth of free pH using the code OxygenAddict as well. Kick your New Year turbo sessions off with a bit of that, Hells.
I have seen a lot of messages about people who have now got, new gadgets and new smart turbos and, I don't know, Swift memberships, and Father Christmas was very kind to them, etc., etc. So, everyone seems to have a new gadget to play with.
Yeah. So
it's not meant to sound dodgy at all in any way.
Say again.
It's not meant to sound dodgy in any way.
No. I think people get new electronics, and it's exciting, isn't it, to spend £400 or £500 on a power meter or a new turbo, and it isn't exciting or sexy to buy yourself electrolyte salts, but it's one of those things, you see those things in magazines about how much you spend per watt saved with an aero helmet or a new frame or new wheels. I reckon the cost spent on getting your electrolytes right is probably the biggest performance improver per pound spend than anything you can spend it on, because it's so cheap to put right a situation that costs almost nothing to rectify if you've got the electrolyte salts with you. If you haven't got them and your calves lock up halfway up a mountain, you're in misery and it's game over, and none of the gadgets in the world can help you.
No aero helmet's going to help you if you've got cramp.
Yeah, you said it. Right, so around the world then, what have we noticed has been going on in triathlon news world? Well, first thing, I haven't seen it yet, Hells, but have you watched this new Tim Don movie, the sequel?
No, I pretty much missed this, to be honest, because I enjoyed watching Man with the Halo. That was excellent. And now there's the story finishes, doesn't it? Or the story continues.
The story continues, yeah, and it's ironic that we just put out a replay of our original interview with Tim that came out just when the original version of that movie came out, The Man with a Halo. Put that out again last week during our sort of Christmas end of year break. And as that goes out, there's the updated news that there's a second version of it coming out. So I haven't even had a chance to see this yet, but it follows his story all the way to Kona. I wonder whether they'll do a final edit to make one great big movie out of it, Hells.
Yeah, maybe, actually. Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
I'm excited to see this anyway. It's on my
winning gold in the Paralympics in Tokyo, maybe.
Yeah, well, wouldn't
just
that just be a
as a
full
guide.
stop. Yeah, a full stop on the story, wouldn't it? That'd be amazing.
Yeah. Just putting it out there.
No pressure, Tim, but Hell says you've got to win a medal.
Yeah.
Good.
If you don't know what we're talking about, Tim Don is going to be part of he's on the sort of squad, isn't he, as a guide athlete for the British paratriathlon squad. So, you know, the hope is that he would obviously be able to go on and qualify as a guide for the Paralympics in Tokyo in 2020.
Yeah, let's hope that he does. I think it'd be really good to see him there again, wouldn't it?
It'd be really, really good. And then, Rob, the other bit of news that we had around was over New Year's Day, when the New Year's Honours List comes out every year. And this year there were a couple of triathletes on there who definitely deserve a mention. First up, Helen Jenkins.
Now she got given, is it an OBE? MBE.
MBE, yep, MBE for services to triathlon. So that's, and she, I mean, yeah, she's had an amazing career, hasn't she?
Yeah, 2-time world champion, 3-time Olympian. And I was so rooting for her at London when it came down to the final 5 running through Hyde Park. I was so rooting for her after that year she'd had when she'd had all those injuries, and she'd scraped her way into the team, hadn't she, effectively?
Yeah, no, it was amazing to watch her. She was, and pretty much during that race she was actually injured, and then 2013 she was out for pretty much the whole season. But then amazingly managed to get the 3rd spot really for Rio, and just the way that she had qualified for Rio was pretty impressive.
Yeah. So MBE for her. And a bit of news now. We had this lady on the show back in the early days, and I bet hardly anyone listening listened to it back then, but she's awesome, isn't she?
Yes.
Dr. Edwina Brocklesby.
Yeah, who was also in the New Year's Honours List for services to the health and well-being of older people, and she got a British Empire Medal, so a BEM. Eddie is just one of the most inspiring women you could ever meet, you could ever interview, you could ever read about. It's just incredible what she does, what she has done in her career, you know, even away from triathlon, and what she continues to do to help other people. She founded a charity Rob called Silverfit that promotes happier, healthier aging for older people. She's done like Ironman recently. She continues to do so. She's in her 70s. She's just amazing.
I hope I'm still doing Ironman at 74. I'll tell you what, that's just incredible. Yeah. To be physically fit enough to be able to do that at 74 still, I think is just brilliant.
Yeah, I know. It does make you think, wow. And especially when you look at some other women in their early, mid, late 70s who probably couldn't do half of, they wouldn't be able to do half of what Edwina does.
Yeah, you said it. Well, congratulations to you two. Brilliant stuff. All right, so shall we jump forwards into Coach's Couch and talk a little bit of triathlon training?
Yep, let's do that. So this week we are talking about the impact that structured bike training during winter, during this time, can have on improving your race time in the summer.
Yeah, so it's a new year, Hells, and everyone's, the chocolate's gone, the crisps have been thrown out and the trees come down. And so I realised we've talked a lot about, do this kind of structured bike training and you'll get this kind of percentage increase. And I've pushed that idea a lot on people. But what I realised I hadn't ever said was, let's put some real-term improvements onto your race time in terms of what those, percentages of FTP are a little bit wafty and nebulous sometimes, aren't they? So it's easy for me to sit here and say, look, if you do 16 weeks of structured bike training during the winter, most people who do that come out of the winter with a 15 to 20% increase on the functional threshold power. But what does that actually mean in real terms? So what we've done is we've sat down with the best bike split package and we've run the numbers for somebody who is riding Ironman UK. And we've done, okay, let's say this person rides at about 70% of FTP, which is about there or thereabouts for a lot of people doing an Ironman. If they did it with an FTP of 200 watts, they'd go around the Ironman UK course in 7 hours 10. If they could do the same course at the same percentage of effort, but we've increased their FTP to 230 watts, which is like a 15% increase, they'd actually go around the Ironman UK course in 6:36, all things being equal. So that's a 34-minute improvement in their bike time over the Ironman, specifically over the Ironman UK course for the same athlete, simply by having an FTP that's increased by 15%. And I thought that was really amazing because, and I don't know why I've never really sat down and done it before. I guess it's having access to the best bike split program and being able to plug the numbers in and see how that actually affects you on a real time, real life course. But I think most people sitting there would give their right arm to be off the bike 35 minutes faster in an Ironman on race day, right?
Totally. And I can probably vouch for this one, Rob. If I think back to Ironman Austria, which would have been the first Ironman that I did in 2013, my bike split there was about 6:38. And okay, I would have just started over the winter, wouldn't I? Because you were obviously coaching me, so I would have started, but I still don't think I even got on the turbo. I don't know. Honestly, I don't really think I had a turbo, so I don't think I did a whole load of structured cycling, is what I'm trying to say, in the run up to Ironman Austria. Roll on a couple of years when I genuinely had sort of stuck to the structured bike and done them, and I think the next Ironman I did, I know it was 3 years later, but it was 6:16 on the Ironman UK course.
So significantly faster on a much, much slower course as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting to put those ideas out there to people and say, I mean, first thing is a lot of people might not even know that software package Best Bike Split exists, which lets you play with lots of different variables, and it lets you change your power and lets you change your weight and see what effect different changing variables have. But I thought to say to people, if you can, not even that you have to find 2 1-hour structured bike workouts a week. It might just be that you change what you do within the training that you're doing already. By doing those 2 1-hour structured bike sessions and making them really focused on exactly the element of fitness you want to improve, you can make a massive difference to a really long race time that might be taking place in 6 months' time. And I think the thing that's surprising for a lot of people is it's not about having to go out and doing lots of long bike rides now to prepare for a long event in the future. You can kind of make that engine bigger now in much shorter periods of time that are, it's easier to find an hour here and an hour there than it is to find 4 or 5 or 6 hours on the weekend. But you can make that massive difference by affecting what some people would think is a completely different element of their fitness to still get that effect of a much faster race day, when race day rolls around.
Totally. Yeah. I obviously take the spin session at Nuts of Tri Club, and we were back on the bikes last Wednesday, which is the day after New Year's Day, which felt very, very early to be back. But we had a full house pretty much, apart from one bike, and we definitely got bang for buck in terms of the set. We were inspired by Lucy Gossage's Zwift session, so we did that. Oh my goodness, seriously, Rob, though. Short-term pain now, long-term gain for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And it's worth sort of saying as well that the bike sessions that you do with the club and that are led by coaches at the club, they're very different to, in inverted commas, a spin session that would happen at the gym, because what you guys are doing is exactly this kind of structured at 100% of FTP bike workouts. And I think that's a big thing that a lot of people listening can make the difference by doing those specific sessions rather than, you can remember the sort of spin sessions that you'll have seen at a gym in the olden days where the instructor had you doing press-ups on the bars and waving your hands in the air and all that stuff. That's very different to structured indoor bike training that's going to improve your 70.3 in Ironman, isn't it?
Correct. We don't do any waving about on handlebars.
All right, listen, so Team Oxygen Addict is going to open for new members on Tuesday, the 8th of January, which as we're recording is tomorrow. So as you're listening to this, it might be the very day we're opening at 8 a.m. So when you join, We'll gather a load of information about your background and how much time you have to train and the races that you're targeting. And then from that, we can tailor a training plan to you to get you to your goal race in peak condition. And who knows, you might be still in time to get some of this structured bike training forced on you as well. The most important thing about it is that your plan is going to be achievable and it's based around the time that you have. So we've put guidance notes in every week of the plan so that if you need to move or shuffle sessions around, you'll know what you're doing. And I'm also available for advice in the Facebook group as well, so you can bounce those ideas off me. So we're open from 8 a.m. on the 8th of January. And the good news is we're keeping the 2018 prices in place until Friday, the 18th of January. Until then, you can get in for £635 for the whole year, which is the equivalent of £53 monthly, or you can join and pay just on a monthly rolling membership at £75 a month. So joining for a year, you're going to save £365 compared to a monthly membership. After this point, the prices are increasing to the 2019 prices, which will be $797 for the year or $97 monthly. So if you want to get in before that date, everybody, and hopefully we can help you have your best race ever at 70.3 or Ironman this year. Ace stuff, Hells.
Rob, I need to, I was going to tell you actually, worth knowing if you're listening to this, you're probably very much into your triathlon. But if you have friends who you maybe have tried to talk into doing triathlon, not yet convinced, then tell them to go and check out Try January, which is a campaign which British Triathlon are sort of leading and implementing and effectively trying to get people to give triathlon a go. Yeah, so you can sign up to Try January and you basically choose your team. So you can sort of pledge to cover a distance of 15 kilometers if you join you, me and the Big C team, or 25k if you join the Team Bushel, so Mike Bushel, the guy who does every kind of sport going on BBC Breakfast, or Team Stedman, which pledges to cover 50 kilometres. That's with Lauren Stedman, who's a para-triathlete who we had on a couple of years ago and also did very, very well at Strictly Come Dancing.
Yeah.
She did. So go and check it out. Try January to get involved with that, or to get someone that you know. It might be a friendly way of getting them involved.
Get them on it. And for those of you who are already into triathlon, we have got an absolute stonker of an interview for you this week. We've got an interview with Dan Plews, who broke the age group course record in Kona in 2018 with, frankly, Hells, with a pretty staggering time of 8 hours 24:36, where he finished off with a 2:50:56 marathon, which was the 5th fastest run overall on the day. We've had Dan on before. We had him on about a year ago, but I managed to chase him down and get him back on again because I wanted to hear all about this amazing race in Kona. So here we go. Here's our interview of the week with Dan Plews. So it's great to have you back on the show, Dan. Thank you very much for agreeing to join us. First up, we've got to lead in by saying congratulations on the performance in Kona. I mean, it was absolutely mind-blowing to see that result come through. And regardless of what people say about the conditions, so the listeners know the actual splits, you went 8:24 overall to break the overall age group record with splits of 54:47 on the swim, 2:32 on the bike, and then a 2:50:56 marathon.
Yeah, 4:30. 4:32. 2:52 would have been nice.
Oh, was it 4:30? Sorry, did I say 2:50? It's not so smooth. It's early.
Well, that would have been fast. Maybe one way I did that.
Yeah. So first up, let's talk through that. We had you on less than a year ago, where you'd obviously just come back from the back of a fantastic race at New Zealand, and did you expect that you were going to go anywhere near that kind of performance in Kona? That's the first thing to ask you.
No is the answer to that. I think I had pipe dreams of breaking the course record.
Yeah.
But I think, because if you look at Ironman New Zealand times and you look at Kona times, they're actually quite similar, because Ironman New Zealand is not a particularly fast course, and I knew that the current age group course record at Kona was 8:37, held by Carl Buckingham. So I thought, if I want 8:35 in Taupo and I have a good day and reasonable conditions, and then I could break it. But what actually happened was we had an amazing day, and we had amazing conditions, and I had an amazing day. So the two combined meant that the course record went by quite a bit. So yeah, I never expected that. I thought it would be like a couple of minutes, not 12 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of the conditions that you raced in the day, what was it, do you think, that made conditions so fast? Was it a combination of not quite the crazy winds people have seen, or was it not as hot as usual, or a combination?
I think it was a bit of a combination. People reported that the run was still very hot. Lots of people said that the run was cooking still. And it seemed to be, from what I remember, was that it was almost like there was cloud cover from the airport to Harvey, and then from the airport back to Kailua, there wasn't really any cloud cover. So the run was still quite open and pretty hot. But I think the main reason was the difference was on the bike, because the wind was low, it was pretty cool, and I don't really think the wind was so low. I can't even remember the point where we had a headwind. I can't even remember a headwind on the day, but at the time I was so focused on what I was doing, I wasn't even really thinking about it, and I didn't realize that it was a fast day until coming back through Waikoloa on the way home. And I was looking at my speedo, and because I was expecting, because we'd been so fast, I was just expecting it to really hit us through Waikoloa, which it can often do when you're coming back. It can really pick up through there, and then basically from Waikoloa back up the scenic drive, you just lose so much time. So the other scenic point, you can lose a lot of time because of the headwinds, but that didn't actually come. So as soon as when I looked at my speedo and we were doing like 44 through Waikoloa with a tailwind, I was like, ooh, this is going to be a quick day. So yeah.
So let's go through the whole day bit by bit, because obviously to win the overall age group race, there's a big gap between you and the pro women on race day, and so you're racing at the very pointy end of the field. And what I really wanted to get was a sense of whether you feel as though you're in a completely separate race, separate from, and I know in a lot of sort of Ironman races, you at the very front end of the age group race end up completely mixed up with the pros almost right from the beginning, but this is kind of a different situation, isn't it? So how was your experience of, the race itself all the way from the start of the swim?
In terms of the pro men, they're like 30 minutes in front, right? They're miles in front. I beat quite a reasonable amount of the pro men, but I didn't see any of them. Yeah. I saw a few of them. I saw like the very, very back enders, but I didn't really see any. But I did see a lot of the pro women, but I really was in company for pretty much the whole day, really, apart from on the run. I came at the start of the bike, it was like Kona, like crazy amount of people, and it was everything you could do to try and be safe and try and be legal and try and not get caught up in the pack. So, but I kind of also knew, I also had it felt that if I stuck with my power and I didn't go crazy at the start, that group would dwindle down, and it did. So I averaged 259 watts on the way out, and then on the way back I averaged 261. But the difference was on the way out I had about 50 other people around me, and on the way back I had 2. Yeah. So it wasn't a case that I sped up at all. I just kept the same power, and eventually people dwindled away. But yeah, there was that to do with, but there was a splinter group who got off up the road. So I knew that we were in there was the second age group pack, if you will, to want of a better word. And then there was another group of about 5 or 7 up the road. And I saw where they were when we went round at Harvey, and I saw that there was a bit of a group up the road. But knowing what happens in the last 40K, I just stuck with my guns. And the last 40K, I think we really closed them. We didn't quite catch them, but we got within. They started to come back into view, and we could see them again. And by this time, there was me and two other guys who were kind of all together. And then I got into the run. I think I got into the run in about seventh place overall. I had a bit of a malfunction in transition because I got given the wrong shoe bag.
Oh no! Really?
Yeah. I know everyone knows. You run through the tent, right? You run through the tent. You get your gear bag. And then you run through into the changing tent. So I was in the changing tent, ripped open the bag, and I'm like, this isn't my stuff. So then I had to go back out of the tent, run all the way back, find my actual trainers, and then run back again. So I lost a bit of time. I think I worked it out. I lost about a minute, probably a minute 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So yeah, got my trainers on, and then I just set off on the hunt really. But I kind of my aim of the whole day was to back my running, because I knew I was in very good run shape. So I was kind of confident that if I was in a sniff and I could run well, I could have a good day. So that's what I did. Like all my numbers in the lead up had pointed to me having a very fast run. So yeah.
Well, let's dig into that a little bit, because I've done a little bit of nosying around on the Times website beforehand. You ran, as I said, 2:50:56, which, I mean, full credit to you and a pat on the back. That's an absolutely mind-blowingly fast run split. It was the fourth fastest split of the day, wasn't it? So the only people who were faster than you were the three guys on the podium.
Yeah, fifth fastest actually, because Tim Burkle, who I coached, outran me by about 30 seconds.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm giving you credit for an extra place.
Yeah. If anyone was going to run faster than me, I'd assume it was him. It was about a good coaching.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Well done. Just ease off to let him have the split in front of you.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. Confidence building.
Well, I mean, as I was looking at those splits, obviously you consider that a really, really good run split in an age group race is down near the 3-hour barrier. And so for you to go sort of 10 or maybe even 15 minutes faster than the front end of the age group race is a really significant difference. So when you got onto the run, what was your experience like of the athletes around you? Did you sense you were running a lot faster than the people around you straight away, or was it one of those things where everyone kind of runs the same pace for the first?
Not really, because I mean, out of transition, I lost a lot of time, right? So I was at the back.
Yeah, because of the shoe thing.
And I kind of, sorry?
Because of the shoe thing happening.
Yeah, because of the shoe thing. So I kind of set off on my pace, and I was most mindful, because of the adrenaline of losing my shoes and everything. I was most mindful to not go out too hard. So I was really trying to pull myself back. I still ran the first K in a 3:45, which is a little bit too quick. I was like, oh dear, slow down. So but then I just kind of, I don't know, just kind of got into my rhythm, and it was one of those days that I felt good at running. And the moment my feet hit the ground, jumping off the bike, I knew I felt pretty good on the run. I had good run legs, and I was literally running on a Leahy drive. I was falling over myself, trying to slow myself down, and I kept running under 4-minute Ks. So when that kind of happens, you know you're in a good space. And I'm like, slow down, this is stupid, slow down. And and that was pretty much it. Even coming back along the Queen K. So I don't know if anyone knows the course. There's a kind of a gradual downhill before you go that gradual rise up to the top of Palani, then you come down Palani to the finish. So before I hit Palani, the gradual rise, that K was still in a 3:53. So like I was still humming even at the back end of the marathon, and I think that's where I probably put in the most time. If you looked at my gap between the rest of the field, I would say that it was coming back along the Queen K, because I did it all at just under 4-minute Ks.
So that section between sort of 25K and 35K, when people traditionally start to fade, you were even stronger than you had been at the start of the marathon at that point.
Yeah, I wouldn't say stronger, but I was holding on, like, because my slowest Ks were running up out the energy lab, and going up to the energy lab, I think I had like a 4:05 and a 4:10, because that's actually slightly gradually uphill.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also I think there was a headwind on the way back. I'm trying to remember. And in Kona, headwinds are better because your cooling is better. So it's actually harder when you're running with a tailwind, because you get so much hotter. So metabolic cost is really high. So people can that's where people can get a little bit mixed up in Kona, is that where you've got a tailwind, you'll overheat quite a lot, and then you think that's it. But as soon as you make the turn and you get a headwind again, you can feel a lot cooler. So
right, okay, that's interesting. Because as you're running along, is your perception? I've been to Kona and not raced, and been out in the heat, and it's hard to describe to someone who's not been there how. I mean, I use the phrase like toxic, because the heat and the humidity, especially if you're not used to it and you first get off the plane at the outdoor airport.
Especially if you're from Yorkshire.
Right, exactly. If you're from somewhere where it isn't ever hot and humid like this, you get off and you just think it's just too hot here to survive as a human being, let alone consider running a marathon.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to hear you say, and for people to have in mind that they can come back from feeling too hot and overheating. The change in direction and the headwind can actually slow them down, or can actually cool them down.
Yeah. Well, there's two things that cause the main two things that cause how hot you're getting is. One is how quickly you're dissipating the heat, so how quickly you get rid of it, which is your sweat rate and convection cooling, and that is hindered when you have a tailwind, and and the problem with the humidity, right? That's also hindered in the humidity. But as soon as you get a tailwind and you get the breeze on your skin temperature goes down and your convection cooling picks up, and then you automatically feel a bit cooler. So you can, like, I've done some training in Kona, and headwind versus tailwind, it can be worth 10 beats in heart rate for the same speed with a headwind. Now, how crazy is that? You turn around, you have a tailwind. You're running along, you have a tailwind. Your heart rate might be 160. Turn around, same speed, headwind 150. So,
wow.
Yeah,
it's as important as that. So, whereabouts in the race were you on the run when you got to the point where you realised you were running down that pack of 7 or 8 that were in front of you out the run? Where were you when you kind of realised you were getting to the front of the race?
So there was one guy, one age group who I knew of before, who was also in my age group. It was called Lars Stormo, and he's a Norwegian dude, and he's really nice fellow. And we had a good chat at the award ceremony, and we even had a bit of a chat during the race. And I knew that he was a pretty strong runner, and he was second overall in the age group in 2017. But he got a puncher, and he would have won if he hadn't had the puncher, I'm sure. So I kind of knew, and he ran a 3-hour marathon. I knew how good he was. And I caught him, and he was definitely running the strongest, but he died a bit at the back end of the marathon. But I caught him just coming back past Lava Java on the way back. So went out to the turn. Don't forget, it's a little bit shorter along the Leahy Drive this year because you had more along the Queen K.
Okay.
And I caught him there, but there was a Danish guy who was even further up the road, and I saw him cross over at the Leahy Drive turn. And I had kind of looked at everyone, and to me at that point, Lars looked the strongest, but the others didn't look like they were running that well. But he took a bit of catching, and I ended up catching him along the Queen K, just basically as you start to climb up towards the Energy Lab. So that would be with about maybe just under 20K, I would say, 20K-ish.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, but I don't think he even saw me overtake him because he had his head in a bucket, cooling his head down.
So the classic Dave Scott pass on the other side of the the truck.
He probably had his head because I was running up behind him, and he dived into the you see the aid station, and he jumps, and then he just vanished, and I'm like, oh, and he's in there trying to grab what he can, and I just ran right around the back of him, and that was it.
So you then had a 20K stretch pretty much on the way home, knowing that you're leading the age group race at Kona, presumably catching and passing lots of the pro women field at that point as well.
Yeah. So the only pro I didn't catch fourth.
Okay.
Yeah. I caught Melinda Carfrey on the hill just going up to Palani. So yeah.
That's gonna feel pretty special, right?
Yeah, well, she's not a bad runner, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think I gave her the fright of her life as well because she's obviously not expecting someone to catch her, and I think she thought it was a pro female going. Lots of the pro females, the response is quite funny because as soon as they feel someone behind them, they go, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
But then they realise I'm a guy in the age group race and they don't care as much. But the thing is, another pro female and get a bit. There's that. Every one of them has that moment of like, "Oh no." I go, oh, phew.
That's amazing. So I wanted to I've heard you interviewed a couple of times on different podcasts post-race, and a lot of those were very, very soon after the race. And I was wondering, has it really sort of sunk in yet to you, the magnitude of what you've done? Because
I don't think so. I mean, it's a funny thing because when it's yourself, it's hard. Other people tell you how big it is, but it's hard to appreciate it when it's yourself doing it. For me, I was never doing it to win the age group or break the record or anything. All I wanted to do is I had a set of numbers in my head that I thought I was achievable I could do in Kona. So my original thinking, I could do a 55-minute swim, 4:40 bike, 2:55 marathon. That's what I thought. That's what I wanted to go. That's what I thought. That would be a really good day if I could do that. That's a great day.
Yeah.
And that's all I wanted to do, really. So yeah, I don't think it has really sunk in. Like, it's been quite a hard transition from having such a goal, something so focused on, to it not being there anymore. Like, I mean, kind of like that. The bit, because we went to Kona after and we had a holiday, and then coming back to New Zealand and coming back into work and back to normality was like, oh god.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I wouldn't say it was depressing, but it was definitely a bit of the blues for a week or so until I kind of got back into reality. So.
Well, it'd be interesting to dig into this a little bit, because here we've got the person who's broken the course record at Kona, and you're experiencing exactly the same emotions as any age grouper who's done the first Ironman. You've built up to this massive thing that you've aimed for. You've arguably, I mean, I might be putting words in your mouth here, but you've had your perfect day, with the exception of the guy getting your shoes wrong, which is a bit heartbreaking, because you could have had another minute off that time, couldn't you?
Yeah, well, if it gets beaten by less than a minute, I'm going to be even more annoyed.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, you've got to think that time is going to stick around potentially for decades, unless weather conditions have shifted and Kona now becomes a race like that every year, which is really unlikely. If it goes back to another 15 years of screaming headwinds and the way things are traditionally.
Yeah, well, I hope so. And even then, I think even if there is a favourable day on the bike, I think you still have to run I think that was an age group run course record.
Yeah.
So I think you still got to run a pretty quick marathon, even if you do have a great day on the bike. So I mean, I think the way someone might do it is they might swim a bit quicker, like in the 50s, and bike the same, and then run a bit slower. That could happen, but who knows? I hope it does stay around for a while. So.
Well, I wanted to get your reaction to this, because I don't know whether you've seen this or not. You probably haven't, because you come across as being so humble. But I went and had to dig into the previous wins at Kona. So your time would have beaten, and for me this is interesting because this is where I came in the sport, the year that Tim DeBoom won in 2002. So you'd have won the overall race in 2002. That would be nice. You'd have beaten Norman Stadler in 2004, the year that he won and had his breakthrough. So you'd have beaten him overall. So this is the overall win. You'd have beaten Dave Scott on all of his 6 wins on any of the races. So I think it was worth saying this, because I was thinking, like, how fast is this race, to put it in context? 8:24 is mind-blowingly fast. And I think still to this day, anyone who's running 250 or below as a pro run, you look at it and go, that is a staggeringly fast run, because there are still pros who, like the Uber bikers who swim well, are still talking in interviews about, if I can put a 2:55 marathon together, I can win this thing. And you're running 5 minutes faster than that. So talk to us a little bit more about, we've got to dig into the run a little bit more, because all things, the overall thing aside, to do this performance and then have a 250 marathon at the end of it, I think it's just mind blowing. So what was it that you did? What was the one secret to running a 250?
Yeah, the one secret to running. Yeah.
Give us a hack.
Well, I think the main secret is be a good biker. Like, right. I think that's probably a little bit overlooked. I am.
Now that's absolutely it, isn't it? Like that's a real key. You get really strong on the bike, and then you're really sensible on race day.
Yeah, and 260 watts for me was not that hard. Like, it was hard, but it wasn't super hard. I was fresh at the end. I still had a bit of gas in me. Yeah. And I think if you want to run a good marathon, that's how you run a good marathon, is you have to get onto there in a good state. And there's loads of things, is how you're what fuels you're using, what you're eating during, and how you get on to how you present to the marathon is absolutely critical to the way you're going to run the marathon. And then obviously you've got all the training and the pacing that leads into that. So it's also like, it's not about speed. It's about strength. I would say, the running a good marathon is about, and I hate to use the word strength because it doesn't really it's not a very good adjective to try and describe what I mean, but it's about, you being a little bit stronger and not necessarily super fast, because I'm not super fast. Like there's plenty of guys who I would have outran who can run way faster than me. Like, so for example, I would do 8 1Ks, and the best I did them just before Kona, and I ran them all in 3:09.
Okay.
Which is quick, but it's not like under 3 minute quick, right? Which I can assure you that there'll be some guys who behind me who would easily be running sub 3 minute Ks for 8 1Ks. But I am good at like the tempo stuff and hill running and stuff like that, and that's where I think comes into difference. And also I do run a lot of hills, and I think that makes a big difference. I ran a lot of hills growing up, still run a lot of hills now. And that's because it just means you have strong legs, and in the end of the day, Ironman is it's a strength thing, a strength endurance sport. So that's where I think the difference comes in.
Well, being a Yorkshire lad, I'm sure you had no shortage of hilly runs and cross country runs and all that growing up. So that becomes your staple, right? Yeah.
I mean, and where I lived in Halifax, that's the centre of the Pennines, right? It's like super hilly, like really hilly.
There's nowhere flat to train around there. There's nowhere flat.
No, there's no flat at all. We lived on a 1 in 4 hill, and it was actually the National Hill Climb Championships for cycling on a few occasions, because it's that steep, and that hilly. So maybe there's a bit of that, because like if anyone listens to my interview on Swim Smooth, like Paul, he's known me for a long time, and he's like baffled because he goes, I don't get it, because you were never that fast at running. But I seem to be more suited to the marathon distance in an Ironman. And also I don't slow down when I run off the bike. It's pretty much the same as all. I reckon if you told me to run a fresh marathon, I might give you 5 more minutes.
That's really interesting in itself.
Yeah, I don't know that, but I would guess that I wouldn't be that much quicker, and I do a lot of running off the bike. Yeah. And they're not just like go for a run, they're like 3Ks, 4 2Ks. Like 15K in the 15K hilly tempo run. So like where I live in New Zealand now, I live on the north shore of Auckland, but it's in the north shore is really hilly.
Yeah,
it's not. I run down to the coast, and then it's like up and down all the way along the coast. So
right, okay. Well, I wanted to get into your training as well, because obviously it's something that people are really, really interested in, is how the top age group in the world prepares. And then the thing that's secondly interesting is trying to draw some threads out for people who are your standard age group or your first timer, because obviously there'll be some things that absolutely won't apply, but there'll be some things that really do apply. And I think the thing we really can apply to people is to say, the Ironman marathon isn't about being fast. It's exactly what you've just said. It's not about your run speed on race day. It's about how well you can keep going when you're really, really tired off a really well-paced bike. And that really well-paced bike is the absolute key to it, isn't it? Because it sounds like there were quite a few guys around you coming out of transition. And as you said, there were people riding up the road who rode faster than you on the first half and then blew up.
Who
have kind of beaten themselves on race day.
Going up the Palani Hill, I remember looking down at my speedo and I was at like 330, 340 watts, and people were just burning matches. They're coming past me like I was stood still, and I think it's crazy.
To go back to that bit, how many people were around you getting out of the water? Because swimming like a mid 54, you look at that's a second pack pro split kind of thing, and my imagination was, wow, Dan's possibly been out on his own all day here. But what was your experience like of coming out of the water?
Loads. I don't even know how many, but it felt like there was the whole of the race was there to me.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like there was loads of people. So that was it definitely didn't feel like I was on my own, that's for sure.
Now on your website, we'll give you a plug here, the website Plews and Prof, which is super interesting. You've got loads of really great blog posts, and I think people could dig in there and lose half a day. But the real standout quote for me from one of the blogs you wrote after Kona was, "I don't believe in the word sacrifice." So I explain to the listeners what you mean by that in terms of your training theory.
Well, I think like sacrifice, it means that you're doing something that you don't want to do. to me, and I just don't think that's the right word that you can use, because in the end of the day, it's a choice.
Yeah.
You're not sacrificing anything. You're choosing to do something. So for me it's my choice to get up early and train, right? And it's my choice to we had a 1-year-old, for example. And so now I'm really spending a lot of time with her, and I'm getting up in the morning and I'm doing, I'm giving back, trying to give back to my wife and her. But so you could say it was my sacrifice that I chose to go on a bike for 4 hours and not be with Bella in the weekends, right? But that's not true. It was my choice that I did that because that's the goal. Well, it's not my choice, but me and Kate had the choice together that that's what we were going to do, and she was happy with me doing that in pursuit of that goal. So that's kind of where sacrifice, I feel, is a very selfish term almost, because it's like you're trying to put yourself off the hook when it's it's like, well, nothing's a sacrifice because you don't have to do it.
Right. Well, that totally talks to your mindset, doesn't it? The fact that there are people who say, well, I really should have gone out and done a long ride, but I couldn't make it happen today because of X, Y, and Z. It's almost as though that they feel as though they'd rather be doing something else, and they have to force themselves to go do that long ride. I love your attitude of this is no sacrifice because it's what I'm choosing to do, and I know what I need to do in order to be the best I can be and get this goal I've set myself.
Yeah. I mean, and like far out, as someone who's working and trying to do it all, I'm so fortunate and thankful to be out doing those things, right?
Yeah.
When I'm not working and I'm out on my bike on a weekend, if you're not enjoying it, like you don't have to do it. So if you stop, I always think like the people lose the way with sport when they forget why they first did it, and I have I was a good junior in youth growing up, and I think I took a step back at the right time to maintain my passion. And I had a lot of friends who kept on going, and now they don't do anything anymore. No cycling, no swimming, no running, certainly no Ironman, because they just become, because you see it so much as it is a sacrifice and you're not getting what you want, and then it becomes a burden. And I think that's a bad headspace to be in.
Yeah. There's something else that you wrote that, and I didn't write this quote down, and I wish I had done now, but you talked about being selfish and the different ways of looking at being selfish in terms of training for Ironman or 70.3. Could you expand a little bit on what you said about that?
Yeah, I think in my eyes, I think it's important to recognize that as when you're training a lot and you're trying to do a goal, you're trying to commit to a goal. It is a very egotistical, ego-oriented thing, because at the end of the day, it's all about you. It's very little about anyone else but yourself, right?
Okay.
So, and I think that's absolutely fine, and that's totally fine. Everyone has to have the goals, but I think it's important that as athletes we recognize that is the case, and if you're one of these who thinks, if you are doing that and you're pursuing a goal time and time again, and you think it's normal and you think it's okay, and you just do it year in, year out without any giving back, then I think that's where the problem is. Because of course everyone has their own selfish traits, and everyone should have their own goals. Everyone should achieve a goal. It's such an important part of life to do those things. But some audacious goals, like the goals that I had, are not something that you can do forever and ever and ever, right? Especially when I'm not if I was a pro athlete, it'd be a totally different story, because then that's not the way, that's not as selfish, right? Or it's not selfish really, because you're doing it as a job to provide a roof over your family's head or whatever. But that wasn't the case with me. I was just doing it because that's what I wanted to do. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah, I love the way that you phrased it on your blog, where you said, look, you have to recognize that essentially this is selfish, but then if you can bring your family and your team and around you, and you all can agree together that this is what the whole goal of our family unit is for a while, that makes a very specific understanding, doesn't it? That you're going to do X for a given period of time, and everyone's on board with you. I love the way that you and your wife and your daughter have approached that, and had this kind of team approach.
I'm not sure how much Bella had a choice. She was going on. she got a nice trip to Hawaii. So her middle, because she was born on race day in 2017. So so she's kind of got a good story. Yeah, but yeah, it's 100% about that, because it's such a team effort, right? Like, if you don't, I don't know how. There's no way I could have achieved what I achieved without the support of my wife, Kate. There's just no way that would have. Like, she doesn't realize how much of a huge part she was in that. I don't think, because it just makes. I think that term, like, the sacrifice. Maybe I didn't feel it was a sacrifice because of her, because I felt like she gave me the choice to do it. Like, if I knew that I should be at home, she wants me at home, then it almost feels a bit more like sacrificial kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I think it's like a team, and I think I know lots of my friends who do Ironman. That when they do decide to commit a goal, they do make a family decision to do that. So I see. Now, if I said I'm going to do Kona again this year, I don't think Kate would agree to that. Yeah.
So where do you think you go next from here? You touched a little bit about on the whole, this was such a dream and a goal for such a long time, and I've achieved it. Where do you think you'll go next from here, both in terms of an athlete and a coach?
Yeah. So as an athlete, I'm definitely gonna hang up the Ironman for a little while. I'm going to still keep fit and active, and I plan to do some of the Brecker and the Rockman swim runs.
Oh, nice.
With a team. So I'm doing Rockman, which is here in New Zealand, with Bevan McKinnon from Fitter Coaching. And then hopefully, he's still yet to confirm, I'm really pushing him hard, is to do the Brecker Wanaka swim run with Paul Newsom from Swim Smooth.
Nice.
So I keep calling it a Marvel team up, but yeah. So that should be a lot of fun. So that's what I'm going to do in the exercise space, and on the coaching, I've had a lot of coaching requests since Kona.
I'm sure, yeah.
Quite amazing, really. It's amazing. It's been interesting to kind of get a feel for what other athletes want. Like, they're obviously not so interested in the qualifications and the experience, more interested in your ability as an athlete yourself. Well, it seems that way.
I'd love to talk to you about that just for a minute, because has that surprised you as a man from a scientific professional background, that it's your personal race result that's driven more people to come to you for, rather than, I mean, the last time you were on, I read this quote out. Chris McCormack said on air, I think Dan Plews is probably the best Ironman triathlon coach in the world right now. And you kind of went, wow. Now, even with that endorsement, it's your personal race result that drive people to you as an athlete rather than your fast coaching experience. It baffled me, but I also wonder if it's just that it just put me on the map a little bit, so people didn't know who I was before, so maybe people just saw the result and then looked me up and realized. But like I said, like the coaching isn't my main source of income. My work at university and my work with the Olympic canoe racing program is my main kind of stuff. But what I'm really excited about at the moment is that we're just in the midst of setting up an online education platform, which is called it's called Endure IQ. And the idea is that, so basically, because internet has democratized learning and education, and I'm involved in the tertiary education system, I just think that tertiary education is something that's is not as good as it used to be. It's a dying thing. Things are outdated. They're really expensive. And also there's so much information out on the internet that people, like, think of an Ironman triathlete who Googles how to do an Ironman, like, or what should I eat? Like, there's so much information that is not in a succinct manner that people can't learn easily. They can't actually have something at the end of it. So the idea is that we're going to bring these online modules together with my experience as a coach, athlete, and scientist. So like coaches, athletes, and anyone interested in triathlon can learn about whether it's low carb performance, racing in the heat, training and periodization, all those things on an online course that you can just do with videos, slides, me talking over. And that's in conjunction with a guy called Professor Grant Schofield, who's a professor in health as well. So that's what I'm really excited about at the moment. So Yeah, it's almost like with the advent of the internet, the challenge these days isn't access to information, it's access to good information and finding a way to cut through all the noise, isn't it?
Yeah. As they say, separate the shit from the clay. You might have to bleep that out now.
Oh, we're going to have to use the bleeper on the thing. That's a good old Yorkshire phrase to wrap it up on, isn't it, really, Dan? Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, great stuff. So listen, one last thing from us. Congratulations. It's an absolutely amazing performance. I really believe it's going to stand the test of time, and in a couple of decades' time, there's every chance that age group record might well still be standing when you take Bella out there to do her first race. Who knows, right?
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, well, not hopefully. I hope she's racing, but yeah, I hope it stands. I hope it stands a while. Yeah.
All right, brilliant. Thanks very much for your time, man.
Thanks, Rob. Thank you.
That's just a mind-blowing achievement, isn't it? To go so fast as an age grouper.
Oh, he is an amazing athlete, Rob.
Yeah.
Really, really amazing. And yeah, fascinating guy, fascinating insight into the training and all the coaching and everything else that he does. Yeah.
Yeah, he's it's the thing that I found the most interesting out of all of that, I think, was him sort of saying he still gets the post Ironman blues just like everybody else. Even, and I suppose it's to be expected, right, after you've done such an amazing performance, but I think everyone suffers from that kind of, I've set myself towards a big goal, and then I've achieved the big goal, what on earth do I do next kind of thing.
Totally. Go back to the episode that we had out just before Christmas with Simon Marshall and Leslie Patterson, and they had a few tips about the post Ironman blues or the post big event blues, and they did say that if you're more of a bucket list sort of racer, then that feeling is going to be a lot stronger. So it's a bit like, you know, when you go on holiday and then you come back and you're just like, oh, just book something straight away.
Yeah.
So make sure then you've got other goals, or if that there is something that you've always wanted to do, you know, I don't know, let's say you want to learn to salsa dance, go and do it.
It's a great time here to book yourself a week in the sun, isn't it? I bet there's loads of people booking a week's training in Lanzarote or Fuerte right now.
I keep on seeing all these bloody adverts or on TV about holidays here and holidays there, and I'm thinking, yeah, I want a bit of that.
Yeah,
I want some sunshine. Have you got anything booked?
I have. I've just booked to go to Fuerte.
There you go.
You got to do it. Got to get out of the winter.
When are you going?
End of mid-March, I think.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Love it. Love it. Nice.
I'm looking out the window. The wind's howling. The rain's beating against the windows. I want to go now. Oh, right. Well, we should wrap the show up then, everybody. Listen, if you're listening right now and it's January, get yourself something exciting booked and get yourself a new trainers and get out for a run right now, because it's getting stuff done is going to get us all through January. That's for sure. Totally.
And as Rob has said over the past few years, we just have to get to Valentine's Day. I just remember these words: get to Valentine's Day. The days will get lighter. And next week, Rob, I'm going to fill you in on what I might have entered for this year, and also stuff that's going to be coming up, not necessarily next week, but over the next few weeks. We're going to have a special episode all about the menopause.
Good stuff. All right, everybody, thanks very much for listening. You've been listening to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon podcast. I'm Coach Rob Wilby.
I'm Helen Murray.
And until next week, have a great, safe training and racing week, and we'll speak to you all again soon. Cheers, everybody. See ya.